going through this right Seedling Sutra. It's not a long sutra. It's, you know, not very short, but right. And it's one of the very important sutra as well. You often sometimes in the commentaries, with the Indian masters writing commentary, you often sometimes hear quotation from that sutras, and so, and the main subjects of this sutra is dependent arisings, external dependent arising, the internal dependent arising. Buddha described first internal dependent arisings. On the basis of that internal dependent arising, it's easy for us to observe and see it. And but he gave that as example, and then he described about internal dependent arising or 12 link. And so then, so that is the main topic of this sutra. And so we will go through that sutra. Okay, so we will start with the motivation. So first try to keep your mind on the breath for a few moments. Once your mind is settled down and quiet, then we can think the meaning of my life is not only to be concerned with just my own well-being, but instead, the meaning of my life should be in order to be health benefits to other sentient beings. And in order to help other sentient beings to liberate from all their suffering and cause of suffering, especially those afflicted with emotions, obscurations, and to help them to achieve not only temporary happiness, but true lasting ultimate happiness. In order to be able to help that, I myself need to achieve fully awakened state. as Lama Tsongkhapa said, without subduing yourself, there's no way you can help others to subdue their mind. In order to achieve that fully awakened state, I must cultivate the bodhicitta mind, and engage in both sarvas path and practice, such as the paramitas. And in order to actualize those inner qualities and practice, I must contemplate, meditate, and practice correctly. For that, I need to continue to learn, study, continue to inspire or reminded of those practices. Therefore, I'm going to listen to the teachings. Not only listen, try to integrate as much as possible in our everyday life from what we learn and study. Okay, so then we do the prayer.
Praise to Shakyamuni 3 times in English. To the founder, the endowed, transcendent destroyer, the one God beyond, the foe destroyer, the completely perfected, fully made, the victor to the knowledge and the supreme God, spirited, teacher of all to give peace, the complete, the stronger, the secure, I prostrate to the founder, the one copy, the face, the Sutra, supreme God, teacher, God,
Stronger, subject of the I prostrate say God, age,
to the
found in transcendence and the ugly, the most fulfilled, or the common
Sutra, supreme God, to be tamed, teacher, God, to be age, to be the completely fully awakened, the accomplished transcendent struggle,
the center of reflection I prostrate with unfrozen age.
going to be doing a mandala offering to welcome Geshe-la for the next several months of teachings. Sajipo. Ju.
So Len Chasing
So.
Because
Ida.
Refusion Bodhicitta. I go for refuge until I'm enlightened to the Buddha. That's our experience.
Great. Simply.
Get Did I send the Sutra to someone?
Never got it.
Never got it. I think I sent this will be printed, but anyway, then I will
Next
send it
week.
again. Yeah. And also I found two commentaries by Indian masters, one by Narayana and one by Kamala Shela. So I will try to follow Kamala Shela's seem to be a little bit more organized. So we'll try to kind of mostly based on that. So we just kind of start today. And also there seem to be different, two different translations. So the title, as I mentioned, is the right Seedling Sutra. You know, and then it starts with homage to all the Buddhas and Bodhisattvas. So homage, and this homage is again like all the sutras. It starts with homage. The homage you find at the very beginning of sutra is homage paid by the translators. Okay, when the translator, when they are translating the sutras, then for the success of that, the spiritual activity of translating, they pay homage to the holy objects. And also to create marriage and so forth. Also, the Tibetan Dharma king make certain rules. And so through the homage, in Buddha's teaching can be contained into what we call three basket, three pitika or basket. So through the homage, which this belong to. So here, as he said, homage to Buddha and Bodhisattvas, so it belonged to the doje, the basket of Vinaya, which is mostly to do with the moral discipline, the rules or the vows, the pledges, whether it's the lay vows, whether it's the ordained monks and non-vows, so forth, is more to the subject on the Vinaya is more related with that, And then Dodedene is, basket of the sutras, and those are more related with the method, and then the Sutra of Abhidhamma, and that is more related with the wisdom, So the second one is more related with the, the method, such as, the practice of, meditative concentrations, and also, in terms of bodhisattvas, then loving kindness, bodhicittas, the subject on loving kindness, compassion, bodhicittas, practice of six paramita, and those paths mostly. Then so here is the homage to the Buddhas and Bodhisattvas, so it shows it is the part that the basket of the sutra. I think the Tibetan Dharma kings, they really contributed a lot in a lot of those things. Also one of the rules they made is that all the translators have to use same terms. What we find nowadays in modern English, everyone's using different terms, and so they are talking about something, but they use totally terms that you never use, and it feels like they are talking about something else, because every translator use different terms in terms of, and not only translator, the teacher as well, and so sometimes it's hard to know what. One time I'm more familiar with Jeffrey Hopkins. I'm more, in Western, earlier Western kind of scholars, well known. Jeffrey Hopkins was one of them, and I'm more familiar with his terms. I think when we were studying, I think we used maybe most of him. I'm not so used to Bob Tolman's terms, and he had different terms totally. One time I was listening to him, and I wasn't sure what he was talking about, but actually he was talking about tree refuge, but the term that he was using was something that I've never kind of not used to. So it's hard to know what he's talking about, even though subject that you are familiar with, but because of the term that he used. So that is one of the problem in our modern times. Forget about the whole Buddhist, even within the Tibetan Buddhisms, the translator doesn't agree with the same terms. Not only Tibetan Buddhism, even within all the Gelug or Nyingma, each of lineage, they don't. At one time there was a FMT actually has a conference among all the translated in FMT, so they can find a common term that they all can agree. But I heard that meeting they couldn't agree, and we are talking just one organization. And because every translator think this is better, and this word is better, and the what others said that is better. So that is one of the. So in Tibetan we don't have that problems. Because the Dharma's kings make those law that they all have to use same term so that there's no misunderstanding. That is one thing that makes. Another rule they made is that whenever they translate, they have to be two translators, Indian translator and Tibetan translator. Always, if you see at the end of that, then you will see there are always two translators, Indian and Tibetans. Tibetan who knows Sanskrit very well, Indian who knows Tibetan very well. So, but so again, it become more less likely to have mistranslations, when there is two who are expert in each of their own two different language, and as well as each of them know the others as well. So I think that is why I think some of earlier Tibetan Dharma king they make a huge contributions in that way. Of course, not only that, I mean, before around 7th centuries, Tibet was empire during the King Songtse, very powerful, control some part of China. I think at a certain time even Nepal were paying tax there, like that. He was very powerful and Lord. But once Dharma came, their resources, attentions, everything went to the Dharma, not for the war and expanding and controlling, but all the resource energy was spent to, towards the growth of the Dharma. I think that also happened in Mongolia. Mongolia, during the Jensen Khan, and during that time he was warrior, expanding. But then his grandson, I think Kublai Khan, during that son, he made the Dharma, close with the Sakya Pandit. And after that, and they started to follow the Dharma, and slowly, their energy is not on weapons and war. The energy and resource was spent more for the spirituality. Effect of the Dharma had on those countries from being warrior, fighting, warrior, expansions to spiritual countries, spiritual place. Then they started to divert their attention, their resource, everything to. So that is the contribution of those earlier Dharma kings in that way, Otherwise, like in many of the earlier texts, you find Tibet as being described as barbarian, and they were very warrior type, they were very warrior, just like Mongolia, peaceful warriors. Of course, they still are come from that descendants. So anyway, so I was telling because kind of it kind of went because homage to all the Buddhas and Bodhisattvas. So that was the homage paid by the translators. It's not part of the sutra. Okay. It's not part of the sutra. Then the actual sutra starts, where he said that I heard one time. As you see, most of the sutras start with that. Again, with what that it shows is all these sutras was not written at the time of Buddha. It shows that these were recollection of someone who had heard from the Buddha at one time. So, at the very beginning, it was passed orally, And then slowly they started to write, But in terms of giving oral at the very beginning, after Buddha passed away, there was among the disciples concern, now our teacher is gone. How are we going to keep all his teachings now? If they don't do something, the teaching will get lost. The teacher is no more there. And so then they had the first Buddhist council, what they call the first Buddhist council. And according to many of the Mahayana teachings, then it is called, it's the gathering of 500 arhat. And in that, under the guidance of the Kashyapa, the elder Kashyapa, who became like the successor to the Buddha, not exactly, but who was the elder among them, and he took under his guidance. So, and in trying to collect all the teachings now from all this, so those who came for that conference, Buddhist First Council, it was 500 arhat. And they wanted to include Ananda, who was Buddha's cousin as well as he was the Buddha's, attendant for his last 25 years, and who was Buddha with all the time. It's mentioned only one time he mixed one rainy season when Buddha went to Tushita to repay the kindness of his mother, to teach to the mothers. Ananda couldn't follow him. So he missed that, otherwise he was always with the Buddha. So he had heard all the teaching, everything. So he must be included in that. He is the one who had heard all the teaching. But it is said at that time he was not arhat. They couldn't include him. It has to be all arhat, And so then they said, then they came up how to encourage or inspire the Ananda to achieve arhat quickly, He already had developed some realizations, not arhat, at that time. And in some they describe, then they intentionally, try to put down him, blame him everything, You did this wrong, you did this wrong, You should have asked Buddha. When Buddha said that, if you had asked him not to pass away, he would have lived more. When Buddha mentioned about that he could be passing away, you didn't request him, you didn't do, so they started to, blame him so much. He started to feel, when the Buddha was still there, everyone treated me so well. And now my teacher, Buddha, not and everyone is. So that gave him a very strong renunciation. Very strong renunciation. With that very strong renunciation and his practice, that he had results of arhat very quickly. Very quickly. And after that, he achieved arhat, then they included him. And then that is what the fourth Buddhist council. So then, different students, mostly Ananda and other times different students, recollecting what they have heard, and then all others are kind of like the witness, whether they heard the same thing or not. So those are arhat. Is that the same thing that you heard? Not only he, to make sure that what who was recalling what he had heard is correct. First of them, all of them are arhat, so it is more trustable. And secondly, again, there is 500 of them. So therefore, there's less to be polluted, less chance of being polluted, and to be more authentic. You know. And also is known, among the Buddha's close disciples. Each of them, many of them has their unique qualities. Sharipu for his wisdom among his close disciples. He was known for his wisdom. Mongoliana was known for his, psychic power. Among the disciples, he was known for his incredible psychic power. Subiti that you find in Dhammakaya Sutra, he's known for, knowing how to ask the right questions, And in Pratna Paramita, he's very, very involved. He's the one of the main one who keep on asking the questions, Ananda is known for his incredible memory as well. So again, also it makes sense that Ananda was one of the key of recalling that he spent so much time with Buddha all the time, last 25 years, and also for his memory, and of course, also he was Arhat. So thus I have heard at one time, so someone recalling, and who is the one who is recalling? Thus I heard one time, in most cases, here in Ananda. Ananda is recalling, saying, thus I have heard one time. So it here one time explains specific time. He had heard many teaching, but he heard this teaching at particular one time. In that sense, also it shows, these teachings was quite rare that he heard only one time and not so often. So then the Bhagavan was reciting on Vulture Peak mountain in Rajgriha. So the place where this teaching was given was the same place where the Heart Sutra was given, Vulture Peak in Rajgriha. Rajgriha is the city at that time, capital of one king at that time, and then from Rajgriha city now, if you go a little bit further, east south, then there is the mountain known as Vulture Peak. And there are two different explanations why it's called Vulture Peak. There's one stories or commentaries is that because there's a rock which looked like a vulture head on that mountain. I think that it's like when you go to the Santa Fe, there's the camel rock, probably similar like that, maybe there's a similar shape of vulture, and therefore it's called Vulture Peak. But there is also one story about, at the Buddha's time, there was a vulture who tried to take away the rope, and so again, because of that, related with that story, so then it's called Vulture Peak, So regardless, that place, you can still visit now, hmm. Yeah, I'm not going to go detail, there is story about Rakia and Bhagavan here means, the Tathagata or the Buddha, and of course each of those terms, whether it's a Tathagata, whether it's a Buddha, whether it's a Bhagavan, even though it means same, but each of words have different meanings, Buddha means awakening, awakening from what? Awakening from, the obscurations. There's no more obscuration, being awakened from the obscurations, in Tibetan, Okay, maybe. Bhagwan means Jomdende, and it means, in Tibetan, Jomdende means, Jom means destroying, Den means something that possess, and then what we've been destroyed is the four maras, four demons, the demon of the delusions, the mara or the demon of the death, overcome that, the demon or the mara of aggregates, the aggregates which are result of karma and the delusions, and then also overcome and destroy the mara of the mara of the particular, I don't know how it's translated. Kind of like demon, who's trying to disturb the Buddha's meditation in that, and he overcome that. So those are the four kind of maras that overcome. And in terms of possession, possession of all the, positive qualities such as 18 specific qualities and so forth. So that is the meaning of Bhagwan. So the Bhagwan, the Buddhas, was residing the Volta Peak mountain in Latvia. In terms of audience, at that time was a large sangha of 1,250 bhikshus. The bhikshus are the fully ordained monks, and they are like such as Shariputra, Mongoliana, and all of them more kind of the hidden path. So not only there were those 1,250 bhikshus, and with great many bodhisattvas, mahasattvas. Not only there were the monks, there were many bodhisattvas, the great bodhisattvas. A lot of time in those bodhisattvas, a lot of time there were 8 bodhisattvas that you often find, such as, Manjushri, Avalokiteshvara, like in Sutra, is the Avalokiteshvara who was engaging the bodhisattva Avalokiteshvara, Vajrapani, Maitreya, Bodhisattva Maitreya. Here it will be the conversation between the Maitreya and Shariputra instead of Avalokiteshvara, and Siddhikarma, Agashkarma, and then Pramandabhadra, and I'm missing one. So those are the 8 bodhisattvas you often find. And so again, like themselves and many other bodhisattvas, So those bodhisattvas are not always, most of them are in a kind of in the aspect of lay practitioner, not in a monk, So again, so that is the kind of the what you call setting. That was what setting was at that time when the Sutra was given. Who were there? Where was it? And who was the one who was giving these teachings? At that time, Venerable Shariputra went to the place frequented by the Bodhisattva, Mahasattva, Maitreya. So Bodhisattva, Mahasattva, there is a place in that area where, Maitreya, Bodhisattva, Maitreya with busy frequency, and so Shariputra knew where he would be, you know. So he went there where the material was staying because he wanted to ask something, you know. Of course, material means, loving kindness. And again, material, bodhisattva, non-bodha, loving kindness, manifestation of highest level of loving kindness, and Shariputra, the wisdom, that he's known for his wisdom. The bodhisattva master of material. I think I've explained before, but again, same thing. Whether it's the Avalokiteshvara or material, same. Sometimes you see both material and Avalokiteshvara in the form of Buddha. Sometimes you see in the form of Bodhisattva here Bodhisattva material. In Heart Sutra, Bodhisattva Avalokiteshvara. So even though they are Buddha enlightened, sometimes they show and come in the aspect of Bodhisattvas at the time of the Buddha. So they can come in the form of Bodhisattvas, and so when they come in the form of Bodhisattva, then that's where we refer as the Bodhisattva material, Bodhisattvas. And whether it's the Avalokiteshvara or material, whether they actually, when they were in audience, whether they came in the form of, high level bodhisattvas, that where ordinary being cannot see them and interact with them, or whether they came in a human form, that is something. Upon meeting each others, they both sat on a flat rock, and so then there was a flat rock, and so they sat on that flat rocks. Okay, so I think that is today. I think that is where it is up to the setting. Okay. Any questions? And also next week you will get
One question, Geshe-la.
Yes, please.
Hi. You said Buddha means awakening, right?
Yeah.
And is that awakening from like ignorance, delusion, hatred, and so forth, or what was? I couldn't really get your answer on that.
Yes, I think I used the word obscurations, and when we talk about obscuration, generally there's two kinds of obscurations, known as afflictive obscurations. Afflictive obscuration is anger, attachment, ignorance, jealousy, pride, all those defilements.
Oh yeah.
And then other obscuration is subtle obscuration, sometimes known as obscuration of knowledge, and that is the imprint that was left by the delusion is not the delusion itself, but the imprint left by the delusions. And because of that, even though there is no more arising of the delusion, but because that imprint there's appearance of object as in hidden existence. There's no grasping, but there is appearance of that. So there is still the appearance misleading, in terms of that is that appearance wrong, and you don't believe that, and therefore you don't know grasping, but still there's appearance. You cannot stop that appearance or object appearing as in hidden existence. And that is the functioning, or that is the of that imprint left by the delusion, and that is called subtle obscurations or obscuring knowledge, because that obscure for someone from knowing, becoming fully enlightened and knowing all the knowledge, you know, becoming omniscient is the obscuration to become omniscient. Omniscient means knowing all the knowledge, knowing everything that they could know, and that is what obscures. Yeah. Did that okay?
Yes, thank you much.
Okay, thank you. Then we can do the dedications.
Where's the list? Somebody has the list here.
Right here.
We dedicate the merit created by listening to this teaching for all beings everywhere on every prayer list. We're going to dedicate for those experiencing obstacles, specifically Howard, Adrian, Wyatt, Gaza, Hovian, and Atlas Kirkendall. For those with experiencing illness, Patty, Bill, Jane, Infant Deer, Stella, Kathy, Rolf, and Emma. And for those who are dying or who have died in the last 49 days, Pope Francis, John Kane, Puck family, Tiffany, Bob, Weston, Gosa Jr., and Devin Orhes, also Lou Mogenberg. Anyone else?
I'd like to add the people who were injured in Boulder
Oh, yes, yes.
and God, I had several people, but I can't remember who.
You can always email them and we'll put them on the list.
And there was a raccoon dead on the road.
Oh dear, okay. Raccoon. Okay. I need a. Sure, thank you. Oh dear, okay, dedication prayers. Gewadi John to Sancho Rinpoche, Make Panake Gyoji, Kewayama Me Paya, Gonde Gondu Ewansho. And long life prayers for our teachers, beginning with His Holiness Dalai Lama. The wish granting, wish fulfilling jewel, source of every single benefit and happiness in this world. To the incomparably kind tended fiat of I receive. May all your holy wishes be spontaneously fulfilled. And for the swift return of Lama Zopa Rinpoche, peerless teacher and assembly of the children of the victorious ones, Shravakas and Pradipaka Buddhas, victorious love song, father and sons, along with the lineage masters, all the objects of refuge of the infinite lands, Please bestow the virtue and goodness of accomplishing this prayer here and now, holding and spreading the Muni's precious and complete teachings through explanation and practice. You wore the armor of patience that is never discouraged. Incomparable venerable Guru, to you I make request, while striving single-pointedly for the sake of the victorious one's teachings, the sole gateway through which all benefit and happiness emerge. And from other living beings, you suddenly departed to peace. What a great loss. Nevertheless, through the undeceiving truth of the blessings of the ocean of the jewels and the great waves of bodhicitta of the children of the victorious ones, may the smile of a reincarnation swiftly beam in glory for fortunate disciples.
I think probably many of you probably heard about it, no, but just if you don't, then also when we were at the meeting, he read a letter from his own Dalai Lamas, and in that, it's a Lama Zopa Rinpoche reincarnation has been born in Nepal. So that was, of course, His Holiness hasn't given so far, any other more indication than except saying that he's born in Nepal. The next will be probably then to ask particular locations, and sometimes His Holiness might give even the locations, sometimes even the name of the parent. There are times when he even give the name of the parents, So again, the search for reincarnation is totally under the guidance of His Holiness Dalai Lama. Okay, thank you very much.
Thank you, Geshe.
Thank you, Geshe.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, John.